In a world painted in shades of yellow, where every duckling was a sunbeam, one was born from the shadows. This is the story of a little duckling hatched in the heart of the Jurassic era, whose feathers were as black as a moonless night. He was different, and in a world that valued sameness, different meant alone. While his brothers and sisters waddled in a cheerful golden line, he trailed behind a solitary speck of darkness in a sea of light. The other ducklings, with their bright, familiar plumage, didn't understand him. They would whisper and point, their innocent quacks turning into sharp little stings of exclusion. For him, every day was a quiet battle against loneliness, a constant question echoing in his heart. Why am I not like them? Is something wrong with me? His own family, caught up in the rhythm of the flock, often overlooked him. While they shared juicy grubs and sheltered together, he learned to find his own food, to seek his own shelter. This forced independence became his training ground. The vast, perilous Jurassic world was his teacher, and survival was his only lesson. He learned to navigate the thick, fern-covered forest, to read the ripples in the water, and to listen to the whispers of the wind. This wasn't just about finding his next meal. It was about finding himself. Alone in the wilderness, away from the judging eyes of the flock, he began to see his differences not as a curse, but as something more. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in deep purples and blues, he was hiding near a dark, mossy rock. A shadow passed overhead pterosaur, its massive wingspan blotting out the stars. He froze, pressing himself against the stone. The predator's sharp eyes scanned the ground, gliding right over the golden flock huddled in the open, but completely missing him. In that heart-stopping moment, he understood his black feathers, the very thing that made him an outcast, were his shield. They were the perfect camouflage, a gift from the night itself. This realization was a spark in the darkness of his solitude. He wasn't flawed, he was uniquely equipped. His difference wasn't a weakness. It was a hidden power, a secret weapon in a world teeming with danger. The Jurassic period was no gentle playground. Towering carnivorous dinosaurs with teeth like daggers roamed the lands, and the earth itself could tremble and split without warning. To survive, our little black duckling had to be more than just lucky. He had to be clever. He used his dark feathers to hunt insects at dusk when other ducks were already asleep. He learned to mimic the calls of smaller, harmless creatures to mislead predators. He became a master of his environment, a tiny shadow navigating a world of giants. While his golden siblings relied on the safety of the group, he relied on his wits and the unique advantages his appearance gave him. He was no longer just a lonely duckling. He was a survivor, forged in the crucible of solitude and danger. His journey was shaping him into something strong, something resilient, something the flock had never seen before. Then came the day the sky turned angry. The volcano that loomed over their valley, long dormant, awoke with a ferocious roar. Ash and smoke billowed into the air, turning midday into a terrifying twilight. Panic erupted. The golden flock, blinded by the falling soot and disoriented by the chaos, scattered in every direction, quacking in terror. They were easy targets, their bright feathers standing out against the darkening landscape. A pack of hungry velociraptors, drawn by the commotion, began to close in, their predatory eyes gleaming. It was a scene of sheer terror, and the flock that had once seemed so strong was now completely helpless. They were trapped, their familiar world collapsing around them in fire and shadow. This was his moment. Watching from the edge of the forest, the black duckling saw the family that had shunned him now facing certain doom. He could have stayed hidden, safe in his shadowy refuge. But he didn't. A surge of courage, born from his lonely trials, propelled him forward. He darted into the chaos, his black feathers making him almost invisible in the smoky air. He began to call out, using the specific sharp whistles he had learned in the wild calls that could cut through the noise and confusion. He zipped between the raptors, a blur of motion they couldn't track, leading them on a wild chase away from the terrified flock. He drew their attention, becoming the target to save the others. He used the terrain he knew so well, ducking into narrow crevices and weaving through thorny bushes where the larger predators couldn't follow. He didn't stop there. He flew back to the scattered, panicking ducks, his familiar dark shape, now a beacon of guidance in the gloom. He led them, not with force, but with the quiet confidence he had earned. He guided them through a secret path along the river, a path only he knew, one hidden by shadows and overhanging rocks. It was a route that kept them concealed from the predators still hunting in the valley. He led them away from the erupting volcano, through the ash and falling embers, toward the safety of the high caves. He moved with a purpose and skill that left the others in awe. The duckling they had ignored, the one they saw as a mistake, was now their savior, using his unique abilities to rescue them all from the brink of disaster. When they finally reached the safety of the high caves, the air was still thick with the smell of sulfur, but the immediate danger had passed. The flock huddled together, their golden feathers smudged with ash. They looked at the little black duckling, who stood quietly by the entrance, watching the valley below. There were no more whispers, no more pointed looks. There was only a profound, silent respect. His father, the leader of the flock, waddled over, his head bowed. He touched his beak to the little duckling's head in a gesture of gratitude and apology. In that moment, the entire flock understood his black feathers, his solitary habits, the skills he had learned alone. These were not flaws, they were strengths. They were what had saved them all. The story of the brave black duckling spread like wildfire through the valleys and rivers. Other flocks, who had also believed in the safety of sameness, heard of his courage. They saw how his uniqueness had become the flock's greatest asset. Slowly, perceptions began to change. Ducks with different colored feathers or unusual calls were no longer seen as outsiders, but as individuals with potentially valuable skills. Our hero was no longer the lonely outcast. He was a leader, a hero. He was welcomed into the heart of his flock, not just as a member, but as a cherished part of their family. And he, in turn, forgave them. He understood that they hadn't been cruel, just afraid of what they didn't understand. The final lesson of our little Jurassic Duck is a powerful one. It's a story about forgiveness, about unity, and about the incredible strength that lies in diversity. He taught his world that looking beyond the surface, beyond the color of one's feathers, is where true value is found. His journey from a lonely, misunderstood duckling to a celebrated hero reminds us that our differences are not weaknesses to be hidden, but superpowers waiting to be discovered. His story echoes through time, a timeless fable reminding us all to embrace what makes us unique, for it is often our greatest gift. Thank you for watching. If you were inspired by this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of courage and discovery. We'll see you next time.